these people are here to pour into you today with that being said. Would you key up Kim Fraser's info so people could see it? Kim, the first thing you see, I love what I do, right? Her passion comes out. She's going to bring the energy today. I want you guys to really, when she comes up here, give her a standing applause, give her a big round welcome, because the first speaker of the day is the most difficult speaker. It's the one that's really challenged with changing the direction of the energy for the day. It's a significant obligation to be the first speaker of the day. And I really am blessed to have her say yes and have her come down and pour into us today. She was one of the top jail Scott agents in the world, and that's no small task. She's done 82 million, runs a big team, and 55 open houses a year. That's like enough to mic drop by itself. Has anybody ever done 55 open houses in a year, much less half a year? Anybody? 1, 2, 3, there's less than 5 or 6 people in the room. That's amazing. I mean, there's some absolute killers in here in real estate sales and production. 100 million. It's just, we've got a lot of people here that have a lot of success. When you look at those kind of things, it's mind-blowing to me. So with that, do me a favor, get on your feet, and let's welcome our first speaker of the day, Miss Kim Fraser.
Okay, in John Sy fashion, I'm a beast! What? I'm a beast. One more time. I'm a beast. Let's go. Welcome. It's so good to see all of you this morning. I was a little surprised to see that I was the opening act. I was like, Brent wasn't available. He said he's closing. I said, Brent can open and close. I've seen Brent. Brent can go all day. He's like the Energizer Bunny. So I'm honored to be here with all of you today. My name is Kim Fraser. I've been a realtor for 22 years. He said I run a team. I don't run a team. I'm an individual agent. That was my one thing, Randy. But my husband and I work together. My handsome husband here is in the audience, and he does all of our marketing. We worked together for 21 of the 22 years in the business. We have 2 of our daughters. Well, actually, 3 of our daughters are licensed. We have a son that's getting licensed, and we have a daughter that's a transaction coordinator. So we have a family business. My one daughter, Faith, helps with some open houses, some showings, things like that. But pretty much a solo agent with a little assistance from a couple buyer agents and things like that. So I'm gonna share with you what we've done to be successful in the last 22 years. I was at John L. Scott for 19 years. When I left John L. Scott for EXP, I was the #1 agent in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and California the last 2 years, and about the last 5 years before that, I was the #2 agent. You'll find out that I'm very competitive. I am who God made me when I was a child. And so I'm a strong Christian. I'm a believer that you already have inside of you every God-given gift and ability that you have. You just have to tap into it. And so there's nothing that I have that's different than what you have. It's just fully utilizing and putting the work in to reach your goals. Last night, I was laying in bed and I probably got 3 hours of sleep because I just kept thinking, gosh, Lord, what do you want me to say to the people? And this verse, Jeremiah 29:11, which some of you would know, and I wrote it down this morning so I wouldn't blow it. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And my goal today is to give you hope. And it's not where I am now. I'm going to give you a little backstory of where I was to where I am today, because I think what happens is you can see someone who's in the top 1%. You can see someone who's successful. I'm in the top. I was number 18 2 years ago at EXP. I was number 20 for production out of 87,000 agents. I'm like number 34 today. I'm going to be in the top 10 by the end of the year, though, but at EXP. But you'll see someone and you're like, oh, they have it easy. You know, you don't see the struggles. You don't see the things. And Tanya was so gracious to open up her heart yesterday and kind of share like what it was like in Hollywood. People will think, gosh, she's beautiful. She's an actress. She has all these accolades. But you never know what's going on inside of someone, right? So I want to take you back a little bit for a couple minutes so that I can bring you guys forward. So at 10 years old, my parents separated. I went from having a mom and dad at home. I'm the oldest of 4, which makes me a little bit more of a boss, ask my husband, a little bossy and kind of a leadership role. And so I went from being, the oldest, helping my mom, started working at the age of 12 babysitting because we didn't have any money. My mom had to go on welfare. We had food stamps. And we needed to have that so she could go to college to make a better life for ourselves. So when I was 14, I started working full-time every summer because low-income kids could get a summer job. So I'd work full-time, 40 hours a week. I would get up every morning at 7 a.m. I would take a bus to a school for developmentally disabled kids because they went to school year-round, and I would be the front desk girl and at the office at the school. And I did that. I would take the bus there. I'd take the bus home every single day. I bussed tables Friday, Saturday, and Sunday afternoon, and then I babysat. So I had 3 jobs at 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. In high school, I took half a day of school so I could work the rest of it so I could provide for myself. At 20, I got married, bought my first house at 20 years old, loved real estate, loved the process, and bought my second house at 22. Loved the process. I was gonna get my license. The agent would be busy, and I would take the key and I'd let people in. I'm like, I've got this, and I'd let them in. So I had my first kid at 22, second kid at 23, kind of squashed my real estate dreams, because all of you know that it's hard to do real estate with like little ones, right? And so I didn't do that right away. We decided to have a third kid, had her right away, had our second brand new house, third kid on the way, and my husband leaves, my first husband leaves. I was 6 weeks from delivering the baby, and he told me he was having an affair, walked out on us, and I was like, how am I gonna get to the hospital? I'm thinking to myself, I have a 2.5, a 1.5, and a newborn. What happens when I go into labor? Like, how am I gonna get from there? He's like, well, when should I leave? And I'm like, I'm not gonna tell you, it's your choice, not my choice. So he left. A couple days before the baby was born, he came home, got me to the hospital. 2 days later, he left. So I have a 2.5, a 1.5, and a newborn. I work part-time at Safeway as a grocery checker. I go to work full-time because guess what? The stuff that happened when I was 10 prepared me for when I was 24. God does not give you anything in your life that he hasn't already prepared you for, okay? This real estate stuff, this is a vehicle. This is a vehicle to touch, thank you. This is a vehicle to touch people's lives. And so I felt like I'd already been on a dress rehearsal for what was gonna happen at 24. And I'm like, I can fold or I can step up. And you know what? I stepped up. I was like, you're not gonna break me. I'm not selling my house. This is my house, and this is a house for my kids. So I went to work full time. 3 years later at Safeway, I met my handsome husband. He was in the deli. He was a customer. He was cute. So I was like, does he come in here often? They said every day for lunch or dinner. I'm like, let me know when he comes in. So I'm stalking the guy. A year later, we're married. We have a son and we have a daughter, and we've been married 25 years. And thank you. And I was doing Mary Kay, so I did my clock hours before when we were dating. I was doing my real estate clock hours, but I was selling Mary Kay, and I wanted to win a pink Cadillac. So I put real estate on hold. Real estate was my backup plan. Because I wanted to win a pink Cadillac. And then I was going broke trying to recruit people that would sell lipstick. So then finally when he's like, if you don't start selling real estate, we're gonna go bankrupt. And I was like, fine. So that was middle of 02. And in 05, we sold 101 houses. So, and I had a 2-week-old baby when I took my real estate test. I nursed her, drove to Olympia, took my test, was back 2 hours later, and I passed. And I would go to open houses, he'd bring the baby to me, and I'm nursing her. And then I'd go to the open house, and I'd come back out and nurse her. So we had 6 kids under 10. So we still have 6 kids, they're 22 to 32, we have 9 grandkids. So that's a little bit of the history behind. It is, so your kids aren't an excuse. Your kids are not an excuse, they need to be the reason why. Your family needs to be the reason why. Even if you have young kids, adult kids, they still need us. So I was talking to Joey and Sophia last night, and they're like, you need to tell your story, so thank you. I felt like there's somebody in this room that needed to hear that. And a couple little takeaways from yesterday. Andrea, they did not quit. Aunt Matthew, are you living your best life? Jordan, prepare to show up. Justin, how do you get more clients? And Tanya, stop living in the past. So if I was to live in the past today, I would have a lot of excuses to be a victim, right? Like I would have plenty of reasons why I wouldn't succeed. But God gave me this desire and this fire in my belly not to quit. See this house right here on the screen? We bought that house 17 years ago. 15 years ago, we sold it, because guess what? We bought that in August of 07. We went from selling 101 houses to 80 to 60 to 40 to 19. Well, in 2009, we were selling more houses than most people at 19, but it wasn't enough to pay for that. So we bought it for $4.5 million. We sold it 18 months later for $2.4 million. Huge short sale, $1 million out of pocket, lost, 37 years old. So bought it at 37, sold it at 39. It's fabulous. We bought a better house, though, about 5 years ago. So what doesn't break you makes you stronger. So if you're going through adversity right now, Brent said in his room last night, 40% less real estate transactions going on right now This is the worst real estate market in 30 years. And I'm not saying that to be doom and gloom. We just have to work harder. I've done 55 open houses this year. 55. I'm a top 1% agent who does $50 to $80 million a year. I still show up. Like I do 2 open houses Saturday, 2 open houses Sunday because it's harder. You have to do 3 times the work right now, you guys, to make the same amount of money. And so if I'm showing up, you need to show up. And there's plenty of open houses. If you don't have your own listings, there's plenty of opportunities to find them. So this is just a little bit about myself here, top 1% in the US, realtors and so too. 3-time Icon agent in the 3 years I've been at EXP. I've sold over 1,200 homes, $700 million in volume. I'm licensed in Washington, Arizona, and Texas. I was 19 years at John L. Scott, 3 years at EXP, and yeah, I've told you a little bit about everything else. So we're going to talk about today how to make money in this market. So geographic farming is a really great way for you guys to get out in front of it and control your market. So instead of you sitting here buying leads and trying to follow up with a lead that might be 1 in 1,000, 10, you're making 1,000 calls to get 1 or 10 people, show up at these open houses. If you can have an intelligent conversation and get them to like you, people want to work with people they know, like, and trust. So open houses, geographic farming, and past clients are how we made our money. I've got a little slide up here, and then this will be recorded so you guys can watch this down the road, but farming, strategy, and execution. So we're going to talk about identifying a farm, researching your competition, research market trends, learn the inventory in the market, marketing strategy, and setting a budget. You want to start with a farm that's small. It's better to start with a small and have more touches. Executing by doing mega open houses, newsletters, magazines, postcards, door hangers, and community events. That's how you're going to get your name out there. So, and open houses, mega open houses, you want to show up with tons of signs. Chris, my husband, puts out between 10 and 20 signs. If you have a spouse that can help you in that, if you don't want to put out all the signs, we live in Seattle, it rains like 80% of the time. So it's really a blessing that I don't put the signs out, because there'd probably be 3 if it was up to me. But it's really important, the more signage you have, the more representation. And we have agents, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but have you guys noticed a slowdown since this market downturn and how much mail you're getting and solicitations you're getting from realtors? The marketing budgets have cut back a ton, right? So if you can figure out a way to partner with a lender or someone and start getting some touches, or even paying for printing and putting things on doors, like going and walking the neighborhood. I don't door knock because I hate rejection. I don't cold call. I don't like people telling me no. And so I do what I'm best at. I show up in front of people and I try to get them to like me, and I try to get a rapport with them, and I try to get them to want to work with me. And I have people that call me a year, 2 years down the road and said, hey, I met you at an open house like 2 years ago. We want to sell our house now. Would you be willing to work with us? And so it's not even that immediate contact. I don't chase them down for their phone number and their name. I just want to make a rapport and a relationship with them and show that I have value and I'm knowledgeable about the neighborhood, give them my information, and sometimes they'll give me theirs. I don't pound them down like, hey, you have to sign in. There's different strategies that you can get them to sign in before they walk in the door, or you can just try to engage with them and put it on theirs. So that's completely individual, but I think just being able to get in front of the people, you have to do the work anyway. Even if no one shows up at your open house, get in front of the people. You have to do the work anyway. Bring your paperwork, make your calls, things like that. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about how we made money. So we farm in luxury communities. I sold this $3.4 million listing in January of this last year. We earned $89,000 in compensation. So by farming, you can control the price point of the market that you're working, okay? If you're just waiting for the phone to ring, you might be getting $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 calls. So this particular neighborhood, we live on a lake. So we live on that lake that I showed you the first picture of. So we farm the lake. I'm the top agent on the lake for the last 20 years. Then we farm another neighborhood where price points are like $700,000 to $1.4 million. And then we farm this neighborhood where price points are like $2 million to $4 million. And it's 28 miles away in Bellevue, which is east of Seattle. So I have to drive about an hour, hour and a half every time I go to service my listings up here. But it's worth it. So benefits of farming can be very lucrative. We've earned over $8 million in compensation just from our farming alone, probably close to $10 million actually if I got tired of counting. We sold this listing for $1.9 million. I met the buyer for this at the open house. We earned $95,000 in commission from that. Then that seller of that house from 8 years ago, I have their house listed right now for $4.2 million. And I sold them a piece of dirt they're building their dream home on right now for $800,000. So I've gone into another $5 million in business from that $1.9 million sale 8 years ago. This is my first home that I sold in one of the communities in there. Sold it for $1.6 million about 8 years ago. And then we sold 5 more. We sold 60% of the homes in that neighborhood. That was the second one, 2 doors over from that one. This one I have listed again. So I was the listing agent from the farm, the listing agent, and I met the buyer for it at the open house. Well, the buyer didn't know me, so they weren't comfortable using me. So they brought in their own agent who did a horrible job. So about 6 months ago, it was time for them to sell their home. They called me back and interviewed me. So I have their home listed now for $3.2 million. But I met them from the open house. from my farm area. So that's another great sale opportunity. This one I listed across the street from that one, sold it for $2.3 million. The person called me on the phone and said, hey, it was listed for $2 million. Hey, what would your clients take today to take it off the market? My client said they'd take $2.3 million, so I wrote that one up. And I think, oh, my commission was $112,000 on that. And then I sold that seller of that home a few years later, 2 years later, I sold their home for $2.2 million, made another $56,000, all from my farm. Okay, and there's another one that I sold $55,000 from that farm, same neighborhood. So being a community expert, holding open houses, doing the newsletters, doing local events, being knowledgeable about the neighborhood that you're choosing to work. So it's really important to become an expert. It can be a neighborhood of like 100 people, 200 people, 300 people. There's one guy that kind of dominated in that market because he lives in the neighborhood for the last 20 years. But I've sold more homes over $2 million than he has, and he's worked that market for 20 years, and I've worked it for 8. So you can find a little niche. It's not always gonna, I'm not for everybody, and he's not for everybody. Everybody's gonna find a person they relate to, so don't be intimidated. If it appears that there's an agent that has market share, don't let that be the reason why you don't go into a community. Just go and provide your value and start chipping away and chipping away and chipping away. It takes a year, it takes 2 years, but you have to show up. And when you don't have listings in that neighborhood, borrow somebody else's. So go set someone else's open house. Just say, hi, this is Kim Fraser with eXp Realty. I saw that you have that new listing. I know it's been on the market for 3 or 4 weeks. You're probably getting tired of sitting in the open houses, but I would love to. So if you have an opportunity available, I would love to sit it for you, and I promise you, I will make sure it's swept, vacuumed. On the way out the door, I'll provide you feedback, I'll bring refreshments, I'll make it look fabulous for your clients. Would you be okay if I do that? And they're like, please, I'm sick and tired of sitting in it. After a while, you get tired of seeing your same stale listing, but there are agents out there looking for opportunities. If you don't have your own listings, look for those opportunities, and then fully maximize and take advantage of it. Put on social media, show that you're working. That's really important. This listing, $4 million listing, I met the buyer at the open house. This is my first month at eXp. I earned $8 million in sales volume on that house because I double-ended it from the open house. My compensation was $240,000, you guys, just from that one house. And then the buyer who lived in the neighborhood, another $27,000. So that day, I had a really bad attitude. I didn't want to go. Do you guys ever go to an open house and you don't want to go? Raise your hand. And you're like, I hate this. I do not want to be here. This sucks. 113 degrees, which is really hot for Seattle. And I was like, I do not want to go. I had a horrible attitude. I'm dragging myself there. And I'm like, who are these people that are coming? It's so dumb. Like, it's 113 degrees outside. People are walking up the street. I didn't even bring water. Like, I'm that prepared. So I didn't have any cookies, didn't have any water, didn't care to be there. Right before the end of the open house, the buyer walks in. And they buy it. Now, if that doesn't change your attitude. So then I sold that one. And then guess what? The same month, my first month at eXp, a past client had me list this for $4 million. And I double-ended it at the open house and went up to $4.3 million. So my first month at eXp, I made over $500,000 in commission my first month from 2 open houses. I just showed up at 2 open houses that were my own listings, and I made $500,000. Could you guys get excited about that? Yeah. I mean, that's huge. So it's pretty cool. I mean, think about like the girl 40 years earlier that's on food stamps, and I'm cashing in food stamps for gas money for my mom, so you could put $5 and see if with food stamps, if you give $2 and it's $1.10, you get 90 cents back. And if you do that at 4 different stores, you have $5 for the gas can, so you can put gas in the car. We would not have toilet paper. We go on scavenger hunts for toilet paper, so we'd have toilet paper for the house. We do bake sales so I could pay for church camp. So anything's possible. And so I wanted to kind of show you that stuff, because if I just came up here and showed you, oh my gosh, look at all these fabulous houses I get to sell, but you didn't know where I started, it wouldn't have the same impact, because it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And so just always remember that. Like, if you're stuck where you are right now, you can unstick yourself. You don't have to stay where you're at. So that was another one I double-ended. That was a $2.3 million listing. I sold their house down the street too. That was another $150,000. The cool thing about farming is you can control your price point. Those are pretty big commissions, aren't they? Pretty big commissions. But that's because I intentionally placed myself there. I have other markets where my commissions, maybe my compensation, let's say, thank you, NAR. So my compensation is maybe 10 or 15 or 20,000. Like, I'm listing a 450 house for a client right now. I have a $600,000 house. So I have normal houses too. And then I have $1 million to $4 million houses. So I kind of run in 2 different worlds. there. So nurturing, okay, so I'm talking about here, nurturing past client relationships. So I'm gonna show you one family, you guys, and I'll get ready to wrap up here. One family I've sold 12 transactions to, 12. Let me show you. That's the first house I sold for them, 2.3 million, Realtor.com lead. I called in Realtor.com lead, met a couple 28-year-old kids. I'm like, there's no way you can afford a $2 million house. Mom was buying it, sold them the house. And then mom needed to live close to the kids for a fourth home from California, so I sold her that house for 2.3 million. And then the kids' house, I sold their house for 1.1 million in Bellevue. And then the kids decided to buy the house across the street from them because they wanted to build a mansion on it. And so I sold them that for 1.7 million. And then they wanted to spend 5 million building it, so mom said, yeah, I'm pulling the plug on the money, so we turned around and sold it for 1.5 million. And then the kids were gonna get a divorce, and so mom wanted to buy this house down the street from this other house. That we were buying that for Zach because they were gonna get a divorce. We had to buy mom this house to live near the son to help him. Well, then the kids decided to move to North Carolina, so then we had to sell mom's house that we bought because the kids were gonna live there. So then we sold Zach's house again, and we had to sell mom's house again. And so the kids are married, and now they live in North Carolina, but I'm listing a $450,000 house, last house in Washington for them, a little rental. But I've done $25.5 million in volume from one Realtor.com lead that I cared for, nurtured, and loved that family. I've made $637,500 in compensation from picking up the phone. Isn't that crazy? They're awesome. Now, that is the exception to the rule. I've had 8 to 10 sales for clients, but none of them in the multi-million-dollar range. But that was pretty cool. They're a great family, and I'm super appreciative for them. This just tells a little bit about our history. Sold over 160 homes over $1 million. Average price point for the last 4 years has been $1,058,000. Our current active sales price right now is $2.7 million, which is crazy. And we've sold over, thanks, woohoo! And sold over 1,250 homes since 2002 and about $700 million in sales. So basically, here's my contact information. That's our house now that we live in. If you guys have any questions, I'm here to be a resource. I'm here to be a source of encouragement to you. It's not where you start, it's where you finish. I truly believe that each one of you have a God-given ability and talent that's lying within you. You just have to find it. And you need to find your why. Like, why are you doing what you do? You know, who are you? Are you doing it for your family? Are you doing it for you? Do you have something to prove? Are you trying to get yourself out of debt? So we all have our struggles, and it's like what Tanya said yesterday, or what I said. You can look at somebody and think, oh my gosh, they're so lucky. We're so lucky to live in that house. You know what? I am lucky. I'm very blessed to live in that house. But guess what? That was hard work, determination, and grit that got us there. And if I don't continue to work hard, I'm not going to be living in that house. So I've got to show up. I already had to sell one before, and I'm not selling a second. So I'm going to show up every single day and work. And I just know that you're here for a reason. There's a purpose that you're here. You're in a room with amazing realtors and lenders, regardless of what brokerage you're at. You're here for a reason, and there's no mistake that you're here. And I'm super grateful to open for you guys this morning. We have fabulous speakers all day today. I'm blessed to open for you, and I hope you have an amazing day. God bless.